Hello everyone, welcome back to SFDC Panther. This is Amit, and in this video we are going to talk about a very important concept, which is wrapper class in Salesforce. I have seen that many professionals are confused in the wrapper classes, so that's why I decided to create a dedicated video on this. Before we go ahead, actually start with the video, please do like, share, subscribe the channel if you haven't subscribed yet, and also press the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates from the channel SFDC Panther. So let's quickly start with wrapper class here. A wrapper class is a nothing. We can say that it is a class that is developed by a developer, which contains various data types, various data structure. That might be a list of account or a list of string. It can be a boolean, it can be a number, it can be an string data types. It can also contains another inner class, another class. So basically, as we say wrapper, if you see here on the bottom right, you can see here I've got a picture which has multiple wrappers, right? If we consider this as a box and we say that this is a wrapper class, so it is wrapping multiple things. It can be kind of anything, it can be any type. That's what a wrapper means. Like, you don't need to confuse like what a wrapper actually is. When you say that wrapper class, basically it is a container class which is going to contain multiple things. It can contain any kind of data type. And we say that a wrapper class is a custom object defined by a programmer or a developer. That is what we say. Now let's quickly compare this wrapper class with a custom object. In custom object, what we have fields, and what fields have different data types. Similarly, in our custom Apex class, we have custom variables. Suppose that we have a custom object, okay, and then we have a wrapper class. In the custom object, we have an object called currency, then we have called a field called email, then we have got phone number, we have got text area. To store this currency in the wrapper class, we can have a decimal. For email, we can have a string. For phone, again, we can have an string. For text area, we can have an string format. So that's how your wrapper class is again also known as a custom object, which is defined by the developers in their code, not actually in the Salesforce system. So let's quickly see with the use case we are going to implement here. What we'll do is we are going to create a data table in the lightning web component, which is going to display all the open code cases. Okay, and this component we are going to add in the home page of our sales application, where we are going to add that component. Then what we are going to give the ability to the user to select multiple cases at a time. So what we are saying is, suppose that we are displaying the table, we are displaying cases in the form of table, and we are going to give the checkbox over here where we will display multiple cases at a time. User can select, and then there will be a button called close selected cases. So if they click on this button, what it is going to do is it is going to update all the cases, and those cases will be closed. So basically what we are trying to do is we are going to give the mass update functionality to the user so that they can update the cases quickly from a particular interface if the case is no longer required any action. So now what we are going to do is let's quickly make our hands dirty, and we will try to learn the concept about wrapper class, and we'll also see the various things while developing the wrapper classes. So let's quickly start. So before we start, I'd request everyone to open your Visual Studio Code. And once you have opened, first thing what we need to do is we need to create a lightning web component. We'll say that close cases. This is the name of our component, and just select the default location that you get. And once your component is created, we are going to implement few things. And with the component, we are also going to create another component, another metadata, which is Apex class. So let's quickly do that as well. So let's create an Apex class, and we'll say that close case controller. Now we have got two things, close case containers. Let's quickly save this. I've just saved this, and then we are going to open close case JavaScript. Okay. So as we have discussed, we need to add this case component inside our home page. So what we'll do is we need to expose this component. So we'll say that let's make this variable is exposed as a true, and we will say that LWC target, and we wanted to have this under the home page and the app page. So these are the two places where we can add our components, and that's what we added our targets for these two places. Now let's quickly go to the HTML file. What we'll do is we'll use a LWC card over here, and this is what our LWC card is. For the icon, I'm going to use standard case, and we will say that close multiple cases. Okay, this is the title. We don't need this button. We need the button, but we'll add our own buttons. So add the button, what we'll do is let's quickly add a button over here. Let's say LWC button variant. Let's select brand, and we'll say that close selected cases. Okay, now we've got, if you want to have the title, you can have. If not, you can have just put slot as an action, and we'll see here why we are putting slot as an action. And handle click, we are going to add a method for that. We don't need this footer, or if you want, you can say that close multiple cases at once. Okay, and this is the body where we wanted to put our data table, basically our table that we are going to have. So we'll see here division. Okay, that's what we've got. Now first let's put this method over here for the JavaScript. So what we'll do is we'll create an arrow function over here, and this is the method that we wanted to execute, and we'll say that prevent the default behavior of the events. That's why we say that event.prevent default. Now we wanted to have the closed cases information for here inside our JavaScript, inside our HTML component, so that we can display those. So for that, what we'll do is we'll quickly go to our component here. We'll say that we need to create an or enabled method. So what we wanted to return is we wanted to return a list of case, and we'll say that get closed cases. Okay, now we've got this. As we wanted to return the list of case, we will create a case variable over here, basically a list variable. We'll say that new list of cases, and then from here we are going to say case list equal to whatever the case we want, and we will return the variable that we just created. So for returning the case, we'll say that we need a select statement, we need ID, we need case number, and then we also need subject. We can say what we need status. That's what we need from case, and we say that let's quickly for now limit it for 50 cases. We don't want the cases more than 50. And there is one more thing that we need to put is we need to put the filters as well. So we'll say that where status equal to closed. So here it should be from case, and we'll remove this. Okay, now we have got our query which is correct. And remember one thing, whenever we are trying to make a call to the Apex class, a method, and we wanted to call that method from a wire way, what we'll do is we'll make that method as a catchable so that we don't get any error. Now we have made that method catchable. Let's quickly deploy this code to the Apex class. That's what we have got over here, right? Next thing what we need to do is to call this method in from our JavaScript. We need to import the method. So we'll say that import whatever our method name is. We'll say that from Salesforce we wanted to refer Apex metadata types. This is the class, and this is the method that we have got. So we'll say Apex method. Let's quickly create few variables over here to store the errors. We are going to store errors. To get the cases, we'll say cases. These are the two things that we have. Now what we'll do is we'll call a method wire without parameter. This is the method that we wanted to call, and that's what we need to do. We have got the cases over here. We don't need to do anything else. So we've got this wire. We need to implement that wire. Like basically we need to import the wire from the LWC library. If we don't import, we'll get the error earlier we were getting. Okay, we got the data over here. You can keep this console to see if the data is coming or not, based on the queries that we are executing into the Apex controller. Next thing what we need to do is we basically need to have a table over here. We are not going to use lightning data table. The reason we are not using lightning data table, because if we use lightning data table, we will not be able to use our wrapper class concept over here. So for this table, to display the table, what we are going to do is we are going to get the SLDS table structure from the Salesforce official Lightning Standard Design website, and then we will put that over here. So to get the table, what you need to do is we need to say that SLDS table. That is what you need to Google over the browser. Click on the very first link that you will get data, and on the other tab you can say HTML formatter online, and just open the first link. So why we are doing that, I'll let you know within a few seconds. So let's this web to be opened. You've got this, okay, you've got this. If you want that, you can get the code for this. If you want the table to look like this, like this, so you have got multiple things, like you have got column dividers. So this looks okay for me. I'm just going to copy it, paste it over here, format in new window. What it will do is it is going to give me the table which is formatted. Okay, now let's copy this, go back to your VS Code, paste it over here. That is why we did it, because we wanted to have this in a formatted way. Now we got this. The first thing is that what we'll say is we'll say that case number. Okay, this is the first row that we wanted to display, so we'll say case number. And before that, there is one more thing which we wanted to have. We'll say it is basically the checkbox, so we are not going to do anything. The second column is going to be case number, and you will be able to understand why we are doing all these things. So let's say case number, and then we wanted to have a subject. Okay, and then after subject, what we wanted to have is we wanted to have status. That is what these are all four columns for we need so far. So we're just going to remove rest of the columns, and what we'll do is, as we don't need this, we are going to remove this as well. Okay, so we are done so far with the columns, and here what we need to do is, again, we know that this is the first column where we are going to have the checkbox. So what we'll do is we'll say that LWC input here, type will be checkbox, and name, what we are going to do is we are going to have the checkbox, I'll let you know. And then label we don't need, you can remove this. And there is one more thing, we'll say that variant is label hidden. What it is going to do is it is going to hide the label on the column label, so we don't need to display the label. I'll show you both the things in a live demo, you don't need to worry about that. And we've got this. So what we need to do is, then we need to have the case number. Basically this is the case number. Then we have got subject. Okay, so let's quickly replace with subject, and then we have got status. Okay, so these are the rows here we need, basically table data. Let's remove this. So up to here, I hope everyone is okay. We are not doing any rocket science, we are just having an HTML table. We are making sure that whatever the tables header we need, we are preparing that. Whatever the table column we need, we are preparing that. That's it. It is okay for now. Let's remove the placeholder as well. So far everyone is okay. Everyone is okay with the class. Everyone is okay with the JavaScript file and HTML file. Now if you have noticed, we haven't done any kind of wrapper class thing. Okay, we didn't made any wrapper class so far. Now let's quickly create our wrapper class. So what you can have is, you can have your wrapper class over here. You can say that you wanted to have a wrapper class. You'll say wrapper class. You say that if it is a case wrapper, you can have a case wrapper. As I said, wrapper class is nothing. It is a class which is developed by Salesforce developers, which is developed by a programmer. Now what here you wanted to have, I wanted to get the case over here. Okay, so we'll say that public case, and I'll say that case record, and we'll create a getter setter variable. Okay, we want these variables to be available in the lightning component, so we will annotate these variables with an aura enabled. Okay, there is one more variable that I'm going to create. I'll say aura enabled, and this time this variable is going to be a type of boolean. I'll say that is selected. Why I'm doing that is selected, so that whatever the case a user is selected, this variable will be populated by that. And then what I will do is I'll create a wrapper here. We'll say that public wrapper, and here by default it is going to make this dot is selected as a false. Okay, and it will take one parameter which is going to be the case record, and we'll say that this dot case record equal to case record. Now if you want to have a wrapper class outside of your Salesforce environment, okay, you can just go there, and not Salesforce environment, basically outside of your class, you can just create a class, say case wrapper, hit enter, copy this code and paste it over here and save it, and you are good to go. Just deploy it. Most of the developers that I talked to, they are confused. They are saying that if we create a class inside a class, that is a wrapper class. No, that's not the case. You don't need to be confused. Whatever the class you are creating is a wrapper class. If you want to use that as a wrapper class, you can use that. If you have inside the wrapper class, you have the variables, you have the constructor, that's it. If you even have the methods, like as a best practice, or we'll say that in a practical scenario, the wrapper class will never be having any methods. It will be having a variable, it will be having a constructor or a multiple constructor, that's it. So that is what, if you are creating a class which is inside a class, that is also a wrapper class. If you are creating a class which is not inside a class, that is also a wrapper class. Don't be confused. Okay, now what we need to do is we need to change the return type of our method. We'll say this is the return type. Now what we'll do is, let's quickly get this query, and here we are going to run a for loop on the case records. We'll say that case record, and this is the query. Here we got. Now what we need to do is, let's quickly create the object of a wrapper. So here we'll say that wrapper, and here what we need to do is we need to pass a case record variable. That's what this constructor says. And then in this variable, in this parameter, in this list, we are going to add this parameter. That's it. So this is a very simple wrapper class. I'm also going to show you the example of some other wrapper classes as well that we are not going to develop, but I'm definitely going to show you those. So this is what we have got. Now we have created a wrapper class. We are using that wrapper class for our purpose. Now what we'll do is, this is the variable name. We'll go to the HTML and we will change this name to here. Okay. Why we are doing that, we will also see that. Now we have got here in the data, what we'll do is we'll say that cases, in the cases we are going to have the data. Now we got this data. What we need to do is we just need to iterate with the data so that we can see the data in the table form. So what we'll say that LWC for each, and inside this what we need to do is we need to create our row. You can see that we are getting too many errors. Why we getting that error, we'll also talk about. Most of you might already be knowing that, but still we'll talk about here. Okay, so we got case. Whenever we are creating a for each, the inner component, the immediate component, requires an attribute called key. You need to give that attribute, that is, and still we are getting the case. The reason is case is a reserved component, we cannot use that. So we'll say that case record, and here we'll say case record.id, and the error is gone. Okay, the checkbox have a property called checked, so we'll say checked equal to case record dot is selected. This is the variable inside our wrapper class. That's what we are getting. Okay, here, and then what we have is we have to display case number. So what we'll say that case record, this is the variable. Okay, and what we need to display, we need to display the case number. So we'll say that case number. Similarly, we'll display case subject status. So we'll say that it is going to display the status, and this column is going to display the subject. Up to here everyone is okay. Next thing what we need to do is, whenever you are clicking on this you are clicking or checking or unchecking the checkbox, we need to update our wrapper class as well. So what we'll do is we'll say that let's quickly add another attribute here. We'll say that data ID. Okay, this is the ID, basically where we are going to pass the index. We got the index over here. We are going to add one more parameter. This is basically a method handle. We'll say that handle checkbox. So whenever a user is clicking on this click button or the checkbox button, we are calling a method of our JavaScript over here. We'll say call the method of a JavaScript, prevent the default behavior of the event, and what you need to do is you need to get the name. You'll say that name. How you'll get the name? You'll say that event dot target dot name. Okay, that's what you are going to have. Then you need to see if the checkbox is checked or not. How you will say? You will say that event dot target dot checked, the property that we have discussed. Then you need to find out what actually this like which row the user has clicked on, because there might be multiple rows. So for that we have got index. Okay, and we'll say that event dot target dot dataset dot id. Now from where this dataset is coming? So if you see here, what we have used data hyphen. So in the JavaScript, if you are using data hyphen, which is equivalent to dataset, and then whatever the variable you are using, you have used the variable id, you will say dataset dot id. Suppose that you have some other variable, let's say that you are using record id. Okay, so how you will refer in your JavaScript? You will refer dataset dot record id, and every hyphen is going to replaced with a capitalization of that. So instead of id, we'll say that record id over here. So if you have some other here, you can say that data record id case. So how you will refer here? You will refer record id case. And if you have a very single variable that we had like id, you don't need to capitalize that. That is how it works. So now we have got all these things, like we have got a checkbox, we have got the cases, we are displaying the cases. Let's quickly say here we have got, we also only want to display the table if the cases records are there. Okay, area label will say that example table for wrapper class. So again, if you are copy pasting the code, you need to make sure that you are checking all those things, and then you are removing and you are renaming those variables so that no one can get that this is a copy pasted code. Up to here we are okay. What we are going to do is we are going to save it. We haven't created the method, like we have created the method in the JavaScript to close the case, but we haven't created in Epis class. Before that, what we'll do is we'll just deploy these changes. We'll go to our Epis class, we'll add this component in the home page, and we'll see what actually is happening. Are we able to see the cases? Are we getting any error? So that we can modify before we going and developing the further updates. So we have the component name close cases. We have got here, just drag and drop over here. You can also drag and drop anywhere you want. But as this is a table, I wanted to have this as here. You can see we are getting the table, we're getting the checkboxes, but we are not getting the data. What is the data? Why we are not getting that? We'll also talk about that. There is one thing that we have talked about. Let's quickly talk about the changes first. Not changes, the things that we already have done. We have used slot as an actions right in the button. That's why this button is okay. Let it be here. Yeah, this button is appearing over here on the top right because of the slot as an action. Okay, that was it is happening here. Why we are not getting the data, I'll also let you know. If you see, the class return type is case wrapper. Okay, under that case wrapper we have got a case record, but what we are referencing in our HTML is we are referencing the case wrapper record, data type. This is again basically the class object, and directly we are trying to refer that what it is. It should be case wrapper dot case record. Then we'll say that case record dot case record over here. Again, this should be the same thing, and this also should be the same thing. Okay, we are done with here, and there is one more thing. Yeah, so we are done with this. Now we added this method, but we didn't made any changes how this method is reflecting our wrapper class changes. the changes in our wrapper class. So now we have got name, we have got either the checkbox is checked or not. We have also got the indexes. What we'll do is we'll say we have got cases. Okay, under the case, which case record we wanted to have? We wanted to have this index. Okay, and then what we'll say that which field we wanted to make the changes. If we wanted to make the changes on this field, what it is going to return you? It is going to return, where is that? It's selected, which is the exact variable, which is the exact variable name of our wrapper class is selected. Okay, then what value you wanted to put? You wanted to put a value of either the checkbox is checked or not. We're done. So what actually happens is you have got a list of cases. Oh, okay, so let's say that you've got a list of cases over here. You have multiple case records. Okay, a user comes and clicks on this the checkbox next to this record. So how you will say that? First thing, you will find which record the user has checked. That's what we are finding. Okay, using the record ID. You can also have an alert over here. Let's quickly have the alert to see what actually is coming over here. The next thing, you will see which field the user has changed. So you'll get the fields it's selected over here. What you will do basically is you will say that let case wrapper, and you will say that from this list you will get whatever the record that you have got index. Okay, that's what we have got over here. And what you will say now in this case wrapper, whatever the field you have got, this is the field. Okay, name, and you will say what value we have got checked. So you can do either in two steps or you can do in a single step. That's why I said first give me the case wrapper record based on the position, then make the changes in the field, whatever the field that I have. That's what we are doing over here. Now here what you can do is you can just say that window dot console dot log, and what you say is you say that this dot cases, so that we can also see if the values are being updated or not. Now we are going to refresh this page, and as soon as we will refresh, we should be able to see the case records, because we have seen that we were able to see multiple rows without any data. This time you can see, okay, we have got, okay, we are able to get the closed cases. The reason is because our query itself says that we are having a closed cases in the return, but we will see, we'll make that changes. First thing, let's quickly go to the console here. We'll make sure you see here 0 index. Okay, it didn't checked. Okay, we'll see why it is not checking. Third index, let's quickly check here, and we got 23 rows and every rows is false because that is the checkbox is not being checked. Okay, no worries, we'll see why we are not able to see. And here we will be, yeah, first thing that we need to make the changes here. Instead of close, we'll say that not equal to closed. Anyone like you might be able to already guess why we are not able to make the changes, but I'll let you know. Whatever the data we are getting from a wire method which is catchable as a true, you cannot make any changes. That is not modifiable changes. You cannot make changes. So what you need to do is, in order to make the changes, you need to use a trick. You can say that json.parse. Okay, first I'll say parse, then what you need to parse, you'll say that json.stringify, and this is the data you wanted to stringify. So what we are doing is, whatever the data is coming, first thing we are converting into that string, and from string we are again converting into the object. So what is happening is, as soon as we convert the objects into the string, it is not related with each other anymore. They are not referenced with each other. But if you are not converting, what happens, both the objects, or basically the objects, if you have one object or if you have two objects, let me quickly explain this first and then we'll go there. So suppose that you have got object 1. Okay, then what you said is object 2, and you say that object 2 is equal to object 1. So now if you say that object 1 dot property 1 equal to something, okay, some value. So if you print here, if you say that log object 2 dot property prop 1, it is going to print some value. The reason why it is going to print some value, because you are like associating whatever there is in the object into the object too. And what happens in JavaScript, both the objects, like object shares the same reference. They don't store into the different memory. They share the same reference. That's why this happens. Now in our case, that's what we were doing earlier. We were referencing this into the cases. And this was coming as a read only. And this was referencing the same memory. And whenever we are making the changes, we were not able to. So now we will deploy, we will refresh the page, and we will be able to see either it is working or not. So you can see here we don't have any cases. The reason is there are no open cases. So I will just go to the cases over here. The cases tab will create one or two cases to, so that we can see that we are able to see the cases over here. We are able to select, we are able to close those. Yep, we are getting the error. You can see we've got JSON is not defined. There is a typo mistake. JSON. It should be JSON. Okay. Yeah. That's what we were getting the error. I think we might also have the cases earlier. There might be the cases because this was the typo mistake. So we might be able to see at least two cases. But if there are more, then it's good for us so that we can also have the demo. Yeah, we have got these mis cases which are in new state. Okay. Now if you wanted to select number one, okay, we are still not able to select that. Let's quickly debug it. So there is a very minor mistake that we did whenever we are using checkboxes, right? Or we are using pick list. We need to use on change instead of on click because we are changing the value of these variables. Okay, and on click is for basically for the buttons, basically for any other events. If you wanted to have some events on click, and then we wanted to perform the changes, that is what this on click is. So we have got this on change. We already deployed here. Just we will just refresh this page, and after refreshing the page, we'll be able to see what actually is. Actually, we are able to select the cases. When we will click on this here, we will also be able to see. Okay, so let's quickly select 1, 2, and 3, and then click on close selected cases. We have got 5. You can see these 3 are saying that okay, these are saying undefined as a true. Definitely there is something wrong for this. Okay, we'll also be able to see that, but you can see these values are coming as a true. Now here we have seen that the name is coming as undefined. You see here this is a very minor mistake. Name should be name, it was name, Nane. So that kind of mistakes I usually keep doing, but this is again a very big mistake that I did over here. So now we've got this. You can see here we will be able to see that. Let's quickly, yeah, let's see. We already deployed. Refresh this, and we are going to have here. You see, this time we are able to see is selected. If I say close cases, see here you've got true, true, true for these 3 cases. Number 16, 1024, 1026. So these are the things like how you use a wrapper class using a like this is a very use case simple. Now we are done up to here. Next thing, let's create a let's create one more method over here. We'll say that aura enabled. We've got aura enabled. We'll say that close selected cases, and this time we will have the cases, the list of cases. So where we'll get those cases in the form of a string. So we'll say that case string. Okay. You want to return something, you can return. I'm not going to return anything here. Now what we are going to get in this string, what we'll do is we will stringify this, like we'll convert these cases to string, and then we will send those to the app's class. But what actually these cases are having, these cases are having the list of wrapper class. So what we need to do is we'll say that list of wrapper class, we'll say that case list. Okay, and what we'll say that we wanted to deserialize into the actual where we want to have. So we want to deserialize this case into the list of wrapper class. So we'll say that this is how we can deserialize. So if you have a object, you don't need to use list. You just need to use simple object. Now what we will say is we'll say for here, okay, and we'll create a case. We'll say that case to update, And then what we'll iterate is, we'll iterate with this. We'll say that wrapper, and we'll say here case list. And here what we'll do is, we'll check if wrapper dot is selected equal to true. That means the case is, now the case needs to be updated. So what we'll say that, we'll say that case record equal to, we've got wrapper dot case record, and then we need to update. We'll say that case record dot status equal to close, and then we'll add that case in this list. We've got this case record over here. At the end, what we'll do is, we'll say that outside for loop, just update those cases. That's it. So now we are done with this. Again, I'll just quickly brief you here. What we are doing is, we are getting the okay, we got the error. Yep. So what we are doing is, we are getting the list of case wrapper in the form of a string. We are deserializing into the list of case wrapper, as we know that we are getting the list from there. Then we are iterating there. We are checking if the record is selected from the JavaScript. Then we are updating that. Okay. Now what we'll do is, we'll just import this method, because now we need to call this method. So we'll say import, and what we need to do is, we need to have this method. And when we click here, what we need to do is, we need to call a method with parameter. This is the name of method. And what is the parameter? Case string. Just use the parameter. Now what here we wanted to have, we wanted to have json dot stringify, and we wanted to send cases. Okay, that's what we've got. Then here we've got result, and what we'll do is, we'll say that window dot location dot reload. So if everything is okay, we are just reloading our methods. That's it. Like you can also use some other way to refresh the table, but I'm just using this way. Okay. If there is any error, we'll definitely get the error. The reason is that we are throwing the exception from our apex class, from our apex method. If you have noticed here, you see here, we are throwing the aura handle exception. That's what we will also be able to handle over here. Now let's see this demo, and once this is done, I'll show you the other sort of examples for the wrapper classes as well. So let's select these two first. I'll say close selected cases, and we got success. That's why this page is being reloaded after the successfully updation of those cases. It will only update those two cases. Rest, okay, yeah, you see here status is closed, and there is something wrong with here. What is wrong? Okay, status should be closed. Basically, not closed. It should be closed. Yep. So, but you have already seen this is basically updating, right? The records are being updated. That is the one simple use case of a wrapper class. Again, if someone is asking you what wrapper class is, I believe after watching this video, you will be able to answer the questions for these. We'll just go ahead and update this again. Now, let me quickly talk about some other sort of wrapper class examples. So this is one example. The other example can be like you are trying to integrate one system with another system, or let's say that you are integrating LinkedIn with Salesforce. Okay, so you are getting some response from LinkedIn to Salesforce in the form of JSON, and you wanted to store that response into some objects inside Salesforce. How you are going to do that? There are various things. First, let's quickly open. We'll say that JSON user sorry. We'll say that LinkedIn user details. We got this profile API LinkedIn. Just click on this, and this API is basically used to get the basic detail of your LinkedIn account. Okay, so if you scroll down, you see that this is what JSON you are getting. Now suppose that you wanted to get this, what English language is, what is a country, what is a localized, what actually the heading for that person is, what is the headline, or what is the vanity name, what actually the LinkedIn ID is. You wanted to parse this and store somewhere into your custom object inside Salesforce. There are two ways that you can parse. You can just use a JSON parser, which are available inside Salesforce. You can use some elements, some attributes there, and then use some for loops to parse the JSON. The other way is, what you do is, you copy this response. Okay, you go to a site called admin booster JSON to Apex, paste your JSON string over here, click on generate Apex. Okay, you can say that, I'll say that LinkedIn profile wrapper. Okay, Before we go there, we'll just quickly go to the command, say that create, and hit enter. We got this code, and what we can do is we'll just go ahead, copy this code up to here, okay, paste inside the class, and you are done. You are done with the wrapper class, right? Now here you can see that some classes are not public, so you can make those as a public. You'll say that public on the classes so that these classes can be accessible outside of your the main class. Okay, now you've got this. Now how you will basically get the information in this class. So now this should be changed here, so it should be, yeah. So here this is the method which is doing the parsing of your response. So let's say that you have got this, okay, I'm only going to get this, whatever we have. Let's create a method. We'll say that public static void parse demo. Okay, we've got this string over here. So we've got this string JSON, whatever the value we are coming from the API. Then what we'll do is we'll call this method and store here in this variable, and we'll say that object. Now under this object we have the variables. We've got the first name, we've got the localized first name, you've got the headline, we've got the localized headline. We can quickly just go ahead and say system.debug, okay, and in the debug we say that obj dot, let's say that we are saying localized headline, and we are good. So what we are doing is, again, this is also a wrapper class. This is also a wrapper class which we are using to parse the response coming from the LinkedIn profile API, and then trying to either get those variables for further use, or we are storing those variables for our custom objects inside our custom objects. So we'll try to see the demo for this here in a quick way. Go to this developer console, and because we are going to execute that method from the developer console, that is why we are opening this. And we'll just need to use the class name, and here we have got parse demo. This is the method. Open the debug log, click on execute, and it is going to execute the method. It is going to parse the JSON, which is in the form of a string, and you will debug. You will see enthusiast API enthusiast as LinkedIn. That is what our localized headline said here. You see localized headline. So this is again the form of wrapper class. In most of the cases, you will be working this form of the wrapper class, where you will be having, you are getting some response from your data from third party API. You wanted to parse that. You can parse this way. This is very fastest, like the fastest way to parse the response. Some other cases you will also be working. You will also be working on different things. Suppose that there is a use case here. I'll just go ahead and create a new file here. We'll say that there is a use case. List all the products which are. We'll say that list all the products related to accounts which are being sold as a part of opportunities. So this is another requirement. Here what you need to do is, first thing, if you see the requirement, it is saying that you need to display the list of products. Okay, how, to which, like what products you wanted to display? Only those products, okay, only those products which are associated with the accounts. Now you know that there is no direct relationship of products and the account. How you can do is, you know that account is the parent. Under that parent you have got opportunities. Under that opportunities you have got opportunity line item, and under that line items you have got products. So how you need to do is, you will go first, you will need to find out all the opportunities. Under that opportunities, you will find out the opportunity line items, and there you will find out the products. So now what, how your wrapper class will look like? You'll say that public class account wrapper. Okay, you need to have you need to store a account variable, so you will say that account record. Then you need to have the list of opportunities. Then you need to have the list of products. Okay, now if I say, you need to display the first, you need to display the account, and then you need to you need to display the opportunities. Then when I select an opportunities, you need to display the list of products. Then you will having another class. You say that publish class opportunity wrapper. Okay, here you will be having another variable for opportunity. Okay, and then you will be having again having another variable. You will say that opportunities line item. Okay, and then you can have another variable over here saying that list of products. Okay, so this is how you can create the variable, you can create the wrapper classes. These are the few use cases that I have already implemented for my own. That's why I have just wanted to share with you all so that you can get the clear picture of wrapper class in Salesforce. So this is all about this video. Hope you have enjoyed. Thank you for your time. And before you go ahead, please do like, share, the subscribe the channel, and also share with your friends so that everyone can get benefited. We are planning to come up with another video next week where we will get how to, like, basically what are the external objects in Salesforce. Thank you.